Rama, who is extolled as the one supreme God by Kamban, God is supposed to be Nirguna Parabrahman. According to the Vedas, God has no attribute. Rama understood the power of love like no one else. Rama freely gave love and received it. Rama even loved his enemies. He loved the world loved him back. His love was reciprocated by his brothers, by Anuman, by Vedanan, by Sugrivan, by Guhan. They all lent their shoulders for Rama to stand on, and because of that, Rama stood tall. And I think most importantly, Rama may be the yardstick against whom we measure the greatest amongst us, but that is because Rama's love was all inclusive. Rama loved people who belonged to another race. He loved the Vanara king Sugriva. He loved the Asura Vedanan. Rama's love knew no discrimination. He loved Guhan, who was a hunter like his own brother. So Rama's name lasts to this day. Rama is venerated to this day, not because he was a skilled warrior or a fair administrator, not because he was a master of the Vedas, but because his love was all inclusive.
Although many people see Ramayanam as just about the fact that Rama came as the avatar of Vishnu and he killed the evil Ravana, it's about the story of good versus the evil. Ramayanam is much more than that. It's about the life and struggles of Rama, which is meant to be a lesson for us. Rama went through a lot of struggles in life. He went through some of the worst struggles a human could undergo. But he went through all of this and maintained very high standards. Even as a young man, he had very high standards and he was well educated. One of the examples, when he was a boy, Vishwamitra asked him to kill Tadaka, who was a woman, and Rama hesitated a lot to kill a woman. He said, I cannot kill a woman, even though in form she was a demon and she was so huge. So really he was well educated and his principles were right. When he was offered the throne of Ayodhya, Kamban says that he was not overjoyed or he wasn't showing too much emotions. And even better, when he was told that the throne is not his and the throne is going to be given to Bharata, he did not show any emotion at all. And Kamban describes this in a very nice verse, in a very nice song. இப்பொழுது எம்மனோரால் இயம்புதற்கு எளிதே யாரும் செப்பெருங்குணத்து ராமன் திருமுகம் செவ்வி நோக்கின் ஒப்பதே முன்பு பின்பு அவ்வாசகம் உணரக் கேட்ட அப்பொழுது அலர்ந்த செந்தாமரையினை வென்றதம்மா. He says when he heard that he is not going to be the king of Ayodhya, his face looked like a lotus flower which has just opened up. I mean, it's not like, he says, it beat a lotus, the appearance beat the appearance of a lotus flower which just opened up. So he actually showed no big emotions to anything in terms of happiness or sadness, and he led a life which was an example for all of us.
Yes, in Sanskrit, Rama is referred to as Sthita Prajna. He dealt with joy and sorrow the very same way, and that is supposed to be an ideal principle for us to imbibe. There's another aspect to Rama. He made a promise to Sita after he married her that he would not even think of another woman. Sita told Anuman about this when Anuman came to see her in the Ashokavanam. Sita said, "Vandu en karam patriya vaigalvai, இந்த இப்பிறவிக்கு இரு மாதரை சிந்தையாலும் தொடேன் என்று செவ்வரம் தந்த வார்த்தை திருச்செவி சாற்றுவாய்."
This is actually very unusual for that time. Particularly the Kshatriyas had many wives. His father is meant to have had 60,000 wives. Rama loved only one woman and married only once, and he dedicated his life to this single woman. And that is again meant to be a great lesson for us. We need to understand that Rama's life is not an ideal life. Rama was very unlucky throughout his life. He lost his kingdom. His father died of grief. He had to deal with a stepmother, and his wife was abducted by Asuras. Nobody would wish Rama's life for themselves, but we would wish to emulate the way in which he faced problems and situations as they presented to him. And in spite of all that, in spite of all of these troubles, whenever he met anyone, he showered love to everyone. He showed mercy even to Ravana when he lost all of his weapons during the first war. So the whole purpose of Ramayana is to help us deal with life in good times and bad times without being affected by them. And this was one of the most important traits of Rama that we need to emulate. I would like to describe what I see as Kamban's intention when he wrote Kamba Ramayanam. I don't believe that Kamban wanted this to be seen purely as a religious text. I know that he refers to Rama in many places as the supreme God, the one supreme God. But when he starts writing about Kamba Ramayanam, he does what we call Kadavul Varthu. And Kadavul Varthu is meant to be to praise God before starting any work. And every chapter had a Kadavul Varthu. And I want to remind people of the first Kadavul Varthu that is there in Kamba Ramayanam as well as the last Kadavul Varthu. We should perhaps talk about the last Kadavul Varthu, and I find that extremely interesting. Ondre ennin ondreyam, palavendruraikin palaveyam, andre ennin andreyam, ame ennin ameyam, indre ennin indreyam, uladendruraikin uladeyam, nandre nambi kudivarkai namakku ingu enno pizhaippu amma. When he says this, I mean, he talks about God. He says, if you want to call him as a single person, as a single God, he says he is single for you. But when you want to call him many, or there are so many different forms of God, he tells people he is many. There is no doubt about this. And for people who don't believe also, he says, if you don't believe in him, he is not there. And if you believe in him, he is there for you. So I think he addresses really people of all faiths and all beliefs in this song. And he says it's important that we think about this the way we believe in it and lead a good normal life. And this is how he starts Yuddhagandam.
This Kadavul Varthu, which we just talked about, the Kadavul Varthu of the Yuddhagandam, demonstrates that Kamban was secular in his belief. And just like Rama, he was all inclusive. He did not exclude anybody of any religion.
So I think I take this opportunity to go back to Balagandam and really go back to Kadavul Varthu, because we have talked about the secular feelings of Kamban. But nothing describes his secular feeling more than the first Kadavul Varthu. And I will say that, and I am a huge believer of this Kadavul Varthu. Ulagam yavayum tamula vakkalum nilai peruthalum neekalum neengala alagila vilayatudayar avar talaivar annavarke saran naangale. I actually used this Kadavul Varthu in one of my speeches in a meeting, and when I came off the stage, one Islamic learned person came to me and was puzzled that he didn't know anything about Kamba Ramayanam, because a lot of people know this song. And he asked me, which part of Quran did you translate and write this up, he said. And that says it all about Kamban really. For an Islamic scholar to come and ask me, did you take this from Quran? I was very pleased when he asked me. I told him this is from Kamba Ramayanam. And it really doesn't talk about any God. He says, he praises the God. He says, Ulagam yavayum tamula vakkalum. The God that created this world, Nilai Beruthalum Neekalum, the God who maintained this universe, and the God who destroys things. It is that God who is my master. Ulagam yavayum tamula vakkalum nilai beruthalum neekalum neengala alagila vilayatudayar. And he just doesn't do this with a great deal of stress or strain. He does it like a child's play. All this creation, maintenance and destruction is like a child's play for him. And it is that God I believe in, and he is my master, and I submit to him entirely, is what he starts off Kamba Ramayanam with.